The autumn budget has become one of the most highly anticipated events of the year, and for good reason. The speculation surrounding potential tax changes has reached fever pitch. From capital gains tax reform to national insurance adjustments, and now possible cuts to the cash ISA limit. The reason there's so much speculation is because this year's economic climate is unlike any other in recent memory. The United Kingdom's grappling with sluggish growth, high borrowing costs, mounting fiscal pressures, ever-increasing public spending, and the highest tax burden since the Second World War. According to the Times, Rachel Reeves is poised to slash the cash ISA allowance in half in her budget next month. The report states, the Chancellor is again considering slashing the cash ISA allowance for savers in her budget next month. Rachel Reeves, who wants to get more savers investing instead of saving in cash, shelved plans to cut the £20,000 limit in July after a backlash from banks and building societies. But it's understood that she is now looking at it once again, with plans to limit the amount of the annual £20,000 allowance that could be used for cash, potentially halving it to £10,000. You could still be able to save the full £20,000 in a stocks and shares ISA. This revelation reignited debate about whether the government should be encouraging savers to invest more heavily in the stock market. Reeves has made no secret of her desire to shift Britain from what she calls a nation of savers to a nation of investors. Her argument is that the economy needs more money flowing into productive investment rather than sitting idle in low-yield cash accounts. However, this view's been met with significant resistance. This is not the first time speculation regarding the ISA allowance has surfaced. As far back as March the 1st, The Guardian ran an article titled Cash ISAs, Pressure Grows Against Rumoured Move to £4,000 Allowance. This article, published back on March the 1st, stated, last week it emerged that ministers are considering a proposal to cut the maximum amount that people can put into them from £20,000 a year to £4,000. This speculated cut spread quickly and caused widespread alarm. Savers across the country expressed outrage at the idea of such a dramatic reduction. Financial experts questioned the wisdom of punishing those who have been disciplined enough to save. The backlash was immediate, and while the government never confirmed the proposal, the public reaction was enough to make officials tread carefully. Throughout the year, strong rumours surrounding changes to the cash ISA persisted. Each new report sparked another wave of debate. Banks and building societies warned that reducing the cash ISA allowance could undermine financial stability by discouraging saving and reducing the pool of deposits that lenders rely on to issue mortgages. Even Martin Lewis, the UK's most recognised personal finance expert, weighed in on the issue. On the 1st of July, in response to reports of a pending cut, he said, reports say the Chancellor Rachel Reeves will announce a cut to the tax-free cash ISA limit at her 15th of July Mansion House speech. If true, I think it's a mistake. I doubt it'll substantially nudge people to invest, not save, said to be the aim. This isn't nudge economics, it's likely just piss people off economics. Lewis's blunt assessment resonated with many savers who felt that the proposal would do more harm than good. The phrase quickly spread on social media, reflecting widespread public frustration with the idea of tinkering with one of the few remaining tax-free savings vehicles available to ordinary Britons. Over the summer, Rachel Reeves was reportedly planning to cut the cash ISA allowance, but decided to step back after more than 50 banking and building society leaders warned her that the move could backfire. Their argument was straightforward. Lowering the cash ISA cap would not only hurt savers, but could also raise mortgage costs, since many lenders depend on cash ISA deposits to fund home loans. However, during her 15th of July Mansion House speech, Reeves said, I will continue to consider further changes to ISAs, engaging widely over the coming months and recognising that despite the differing views on the right approach, we're united in wanting better outcomes for both savers and for the UK economy. She said she was still considering reforms to the ISA system, insisting that the UK had been too negative about investing. She argued that encouraging more investment could help stimulate economic growth and give ordinary citizens a greater stake in the financial markets. Currently, individuals can save up to £20,000 a year across different ISA types, including cash, stocks and shares, lifetime, and innovative finance ISAs. All returns are tax-free for life. The Treasury hopes that reducing the proportion allowed for cash savings will incentivise people to explore investing, which in theory could help channel more capital into British businesses. But critics are not convinced. They argue that changing the allowance will not alter behaviour in any meaningful way. Most people who save in cash ISAs do so because they value security and cannot afford the risk of investing. Forcing them to move their money into stocks and shares may expose them to losses they're neither comfortable with nor financially equipped to handle. In light of all this speculation, Martin Lewis offered practical advice to savers. He said that if anyone was planning to put money into cash ISAs during this tax year, it might be wise to do it sooner rather than later. Given the growing talk of allowance cuts, locking in the current £20,000 limit could be a safer strategy before any potential changes come into effect. Martin Lewis shared this advice on his YouTube channel. Here's a clip of what he said.
But for me, what all this means is if you are planning to save into a cash ISA this tax year and you've got the money, getting the money in sooner would seem safer in case there is a risk of the allowance being cut.
Martin Lewis's position was later echoed by Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg, who stated the following.
What should the intelligent taxpayer do? Well, some things are simple, and some need careful financial advice, and I will divide them up. One of the things that everybody can and should do is use their maximum ISA allowance, in case that gets changed mid-year. So if you haven't already put the money in, if you normally leave it till March or the very first days of April, do it now, put the money in. The amount, the limit, won't be cut retrospectively to stop you putting in money this year.
The potential impact of a cash ISA limit reduction is staggering. According to data from the investment platform AJ Bell, across the UK, 22.3 million adults hold an ISA, with around 3.6 million holding both stocks and shares and cash accounts, 4.2 million using ISAs solely to invest, and 14.4 million with a cash ISA only. This means that any change to the cash ISA allowance would directly affect the majority of ISA users, ordinary savers who rely on these accounts as a safe, tax-efficient place to hold money. For many, this isn't a matter of investment preference, but one of necessity. Retirees, for instance, often prefer cash ISAs because they provide stability and liquidity without exposing them to market fluctuations. To put this into perspective, 22.3 million adults represent roughly 1/3 of the entire UK adult population. That's a staggering number of people whose financial plans could be disrupted by a single budget announcement. The scale of potential fallout explains why the backlash has been so strong and why the government has been forced to tread carefully. This year's autumn budget feels unusually significant because it goes beyond numbers and charts. It's shaping people's behaviour. The uncertainty surrounding fiscal policy has already begun to alter how people spend, save and invest. For instance, The Guardian recently reported that housing market analysts fear potential buyers may be delaying purchases while waiting for clarity on upcoming tax changes. The report said, analysts fear would-be buyers could hold off as they wait for clarity on potential changes in stamp duty and other taxes in the autumn budget, which is scheduled for the 26th of November. This kind of behaviour shows just how much uncertainty about taxes can mess with the economy. When people don't know what the government's about to do, they stop spending, delay buying homes, and hold off on big money decisions. That hesitation alone can slow the economy, even before any new policy officially lands. The same thing's happening with savings. Rumours about ISA changes have already pushed some people to rush their deposits, while others are sitting tight waiting for clarity. The result? A sort of weird mix of behavioural changes. So why would Rachel Reeves take such a risky step? The answer's simple. The Treasury's in a tight spot. Reeves has practically admitted that tax rises are on the way. The government is facing a £22 billion gap in the public finances and has to find new ways to raise money without scaring voters or rattling the markets. Her argument is that channeling more cash into investments could kill two birds with one stone, giving UK businesses a boost and reducing the state's long-term reliance on borrowing. In theory, getting people to invest rather than save could help build a stronger economy. But the big question is whether it'll work in real life. Most everyday savers don't have the appetite or the spare cash to risk on the markets, and that's where critics say her plan starts to look shaky. As the autumn budget approaches, millions of Britons are watching closely to see whether Rachel Reeves will indeed press ahead with cuts to the cash ISA allowance. The speculation, while partly media-driven, reflects genuine uncertainty in the Treasury's approach. On the one hand, the government wants to promote growth and investment, and on the other, it risks angering millions of prudent savers who simply want security for their money. Rachel Reeves has practically confirmed that tax rises are coming. The question now is whether she'll add ISA reform to the list of measures that redefine how Britain saves, invests, and plans for the future. With more than 22 million people across the UK holding some form of ISA, any change to the cash allowance is bound to spark a strong reaction. For many, ISAs aren't just financial tools. They're symbols of stability and fairness in a system that often feels uncertain. If the government moves forward with a cut, it risks triggering a nationwide backlash from savers who feel they're being punished for doing the right thing. What do you think the public reaction will be to these ISA reforms? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more updates.